Long, long ago, in a time when kings ruled their own kingdoms, dragon kings governed the underwater world, each presiding over one of the four great seas. This story takes place in the late Goryeo period. The dragon king Gwangri, ruler of the southern sea, built a magnificent new palace deep beneath the waves and named it Yongdeokjeon. When the palace was finally completed, he chose an auspicious day and invited the dragon kings of the east, west and north seas to celebrate with a grand feast. To the beat of drums, flutes echoed through the waters, blending with beautiful songs. The tables were filled with rare delicacies from the sea and fine liquor. Everyone was swept away by the joy of the music, sharing food and laughter, losing track of time until, after several days, the feast finally came to an end. But then, something terrible happened. Perhaps the celebration had lasted for too long. Soon after the feast ended, the Dragon King fell gravely ill. He laid in his chamber, groaning in pain, unable to rise, no matter what treatment was tried. Days passed, and still he could not leave his bed. The ministers of the underwater palace devoted themselves to his care. They tried every remedy the sea could offer, but nothing had any effect. Thinking the illness might have been caused by too much drink, they gave him water, but it did no good. They administered rare medicines, said to restore vitality, yet his condition did not improve. They tried pike eel, believed to strengthen the lungs, and even carp, used to treat stomach illness. But still, there was no change. They exhausted every cure and tended to him with utmost devotion, yet the illness only grew worse. In the end, there was nothing left to do but pray to the heavens.
Please save the Dragon King. Please save the Dragon King.
All of them prayed with one heart, again and again. Then one day, something miraculous happened. 5 colored clouds spread across the dragon palace, and from within them came a deep and gentle voice, while a fragrant scent filled the air in every direction. Soon, parting the clouds, an immortal descended into the palace, and his appearance was anything but ordinary. He wore flowing blue robes, light as drifting mist, with a moon-shaped ornament at his side, and in one hand he held a white feather fan. The immortal stepped lightly onto the floor, bowed before the Dragon King, and sat down with quiet composure. Despite his illness, the Dragon King was delighted and asked respectfully,
I am truly grateful that an immortal from the heavens has come all this way to visit me. I have fallen ill and was unable to go out and greet you myself.
I was sailing along the Milky Way, on my way to deliver a letter from another immortal, when I heard of your Majesty's long suffering, so I stopped by. I would like to hear about your condition.
Encouraged, the Dragon King explained,
It seems this illness has seeped deep into my bones. I have tried every remedy said to be effective, yet none has helped. I had resigned myself to death. Please, I beg you, examine me closely and tell me of a cure.
The immortal rolled up his sleeves and carefully examined the Dragon King. After a long moment of thought, he finally began to speak.
Your Majesty's noble body is unlike that of human beings. Though your eyes are keen, you cannot see stones or rocks. You hear through the 2 horns upon your head. The reverse scale beneath your chin rises when angered. And you hold a magical jewel in your mouth, by which you command all transformations at will. A body such as yours cannot be healed by the needles or medicines used for human beings. Long ago, a man named Shenong tasted hundreds of herbs and discovered remedies for countless illnesses. Yet none are suited to your Majesty. Your scales are too hard for needles to pierce, and since you do not partake of cooked food, even medicinal broths are of no use. After careful consideration, I have concluded that only the liver of a 1,000-year-old rabbit can cure this illness.
The Dragon King was deeply puzzled.
How can a rabbit's liver serve as medicine?
The rabbit feeds on the energy of the sun at dawn, and when the elixir of immortality is prepared in the Moon Palace, it absorbs the essence of the moon. Having taken in the energies of both the sun and the moon, its vital force strengthens its liver. In traditional medicine, the eyes are connected to the liver, and the rabbit is known for its keen sight, proof of the strength of its liver. If your majesty consumes the liver of a rabbit, not only will your illness be cured at once, but you will also live long in good health. But if it cannot be obtained, then no physician, however skilled, will be able to save you. By any means necessary, you must secure a rabbit's liver.
As soon as the immortal finished speaking, he rose from his seat and stepped outside. In an instant, his form vanished, leaving behind only the clear sound of a flute echoing through the air. The Dragon King was left in deep thought. This was no small matter. Rabbits lived in the human world, on land. No matter how great his powers, he was still a king of the sea. The liver of a rabbit that dwelled in the mountains above was not something easily obtained. After much deliberation, the Dragon King issued a command.
Summon all the ministers.
Once the order was given, who would dare hesitate? The entire underwater palace stirred into motion, and the ministers hurried in without delay. Civil officials lined up to the east, military officials to the west. Those of highest rank stood at the front, and one by one they entered and stood before the Dragon King. The left chancellor, the turtle, and the right chancellor, the carp, along with ministers of every department, generals, scholars, and magistrates, all the fish officials of the underwater court. They gathered at once, and the smell of fish filled the air. The Dragon King looked down upon the ministers gathered before him and asked,
Do you understand the duty that must be upheld between a ruler and his subjects?
The left chancellor, the turtle, stepped forward and replied,
My family has long been known for its wisdom and insight. In ancient times, when the sage King Yu of China sought to control the great floods, it is said that he learned the methods of water management from the markings on the back of a turtle that emerged from the Luo River. Likewise, when the Zhou dynasty sought to determine the location of its capital, it was through divination using a turtle's shell that the decision was made. The achievements of my ancestors are recorded throughout history, and thus I am well versed in the duties that bind ruler and subject.
The Dragon King asked again,
Then what does it mean to be a loyal subject?
A loyal subject must not spare his life for the sake of his ruler. In ancient China, when Duke Wen of Jin was starving, his retainer Jie Zitui cut flesh from his own thigh to feed him. And in the Han dynasty, the minister Ji Xin, in order to save his ruler, who was surrounded by enemies, pretended to be the king and went forth in his place, ultimately perishing in flames. In this way, when the ruler faces hardship, one must be prepared to do anything. Only then can one be called truly loyal.
After hearing this, the Dragon King asked once again,
Is there such a loyal subject in our underwater palace?
The right chancellor, the carp, could not remain silent and stepped forward to answer.
My family has long been known for its scholarship. In China, the son of Confucius was named Li, which also means carp, and the phrase passing through the Dragon Gate is likewise associated with us. It is said that if a carp swims upstream against the fierce currents at the Dragon Gate on the Yellow River, it will transform into a dragon. From this legend came the name for the examination that selects outstanding talent. There is also the story of the devoted son Wang Xiang, who in the dead of winter sought to catch fish from a frozen river for his stepmother, and the ice broke open to reveal 2 carp. Reflecting on such histories, I have come to understand this. Just as only strong winds reveal which grass is truly resilient, it is only in times of hardship that true loyalty is revealed.
After hearing the words of the 2 ministers, the Dragon King asked,
My illness is severe and difficult to cure. The immortals said that unless I consume a rabbit's liver, I cannot survive. Who among you will capture a rabbit and cure my illness?
The Minister of Studies, the croaker, quickly stepped forward and said, I do not know what kind of creature a rabbit is, but according to the historical records, it lives in the mountains. Grant 3,000 swift soldiers and send the whale general to capture it. Hearing this, the whale grew angry. The land is not the same as the sea. How can soldiers of the water fight on land? Such shallow thinking, yet when difficulty arises, you push the burden onto the military. It is truly frustrating. The croaker, embarrassed, fell silent. At that moment, the court scholar, the hairtail, spoke up. A rabbit is but a small creature. Send a letter to the king of the mountains and request that a few rabbits be offered as tribute. The Dragon King asked again,
Even if you write the letter, who will deliver it to the king of the mountains?
At this, a suggestion arose to have General Beeldeok the crab carry the letter. Hearing this, the crab grew furious, bubbling with anger. The world of water and the world of the mountains are different. Even if the Dragon King sends a letter, why would the ruler of the mountains heed such a request? Let the one who writes the letter deliver it himself. The civil officials, long suppressed by the authority of the military, seized this opportunity to vent their frustrations. As the Dragon King listened, it seemed that a great quarrel between civil and military officials was about to erupt. The Dragon King raised his head sharply and turned to the white-robed chancellor, the Mandarin Fish.
We must obtain a rabbit's liver without delay. Yet the civil and military officials do nothing but quarrel over their positions. I do not know whom to send. Do not distinguish between civil or military. Recommend a minister fit for this task.
The Mandarin Fish was one who had abandoned ambition for office and spent his days studying in quiet, scenic places. The officials of the underwater court called him Master of the Rivers and Lakes and respected him greatly, inviting him to offer counsel whenever important matters arose. Though he held no official title, he was always consulted in affairs of the state and thus was known as the White-Robed Chancellor. There is no one who knows the ministers better than the ruler himself. Your Majesty, name the one you wish to send. If he is not suitable, I shall say so. At this answer, the Dragon King fell into deep thought. Yet each time he named a candidate, the Mandarin Fish gave a reason why they were unfit.
What of General Clam, whose shell is strong?
He may seem suitable, but he bears enmity with the Sandpiper. If they begin to fight, both will be caught by a fisherman.
What of the catfish officer, who appears dignified?
These days, it is common to catch fish using pepper powder. He cannot approach fresh water.
The sea bream has long wished to become a minister. Shall we promise him promotion and send him?
To send him would be like offering up an ingredient for steaming. He would surely be captured.
The tadpole once held great ambitions. What if we send him?
The journey is long. It would take months. By then he will have become a frog and forgotten entirely that he was once a tadpole. Who knows where he would leap off to? From morning until midday, the questioning and answering continued endlessly, without reaching any conclusion. At last, one minister stepped forward and spoke.
Loyalty is the highest virtue in the old codes of duty. Long ago, 2 loyal men were cast out in disgrace and driven to their deaths in the rivers. My ancestors lived by those waters, and it is said that their spirit of loyalty passed down through our line. Because of that, I too was born with loyalty in my heart. If offering my own liver could save your Majesty, I would do so without hesitation. But since it must be a rabbit's liver, I will do whatever it takes to obtain one.
Not only the Dragon King, but all the ministers were astonished. Looking closely, they realized it was the palace official, the turtle, whom they had always looked down upon. The Dragon King, still doubtful, questioned him carefully.
To capture a rabbit, one must travel tens of thousands of li from the underwater world to the mountains on land. In those mountains live hundreds of kinds of furred beasts. How would you recognize a rabbit among them? And even if by fortune you were to encounter one, how would you bring it here? To accomplish such a task, one would need the brilliance of a legendary strategist, the speed of the wind, a tongue sharp enough to turn disaster into advantage, and a strength fit for a giant. And yet, looking at you, how could you possibly manage such a task? You would be far better suited as an ingredient for turtle soup to accompany wine.
Loyalty, wisdom, and eloquence reside within the heart and cannot be judged by outward appearance alone. Yet even by appearance, I lack nothing. I can withdraw and extend my neck at will, as though transforming my very form. Within this pointed head is filled with wisdom, and even if it costs me my life, I will surely bring here a rabbit. Therefore, please have its form drawn in detail.
Hearing the turtle's reply, the Dragon King was impressed and praised him.
There is no subject as loyal as you.
At once he summoned the mermaid painter and ordered her to draw a rabbit. But as a painter of the underwater world, she had never seen a rabbit, nor even an image of one. As all the ministers grew anxious and uncertain, the abalone stepped forward. In a previous life, I was a pheasant and lived in the mountains. While fleeing hunters, the easiest prey alongside me was always the rabbit. We fled together and helped one another, and even now the image of the rabbit lingers before my eyes, painted as I describe. And so, the abalone instructed, and the mermaid painted. She drew eyes that gaze at moonlight shining over the mountains, ears pricked up to hear birdsong, a nose that takes in the scent of spring blossoms, a mouth that gathers chestnuts and acorns, legs that leap swiftly to escape hunting dogs, and soft fur used for making brushes. With ears upright, eyes bright and alert, a slender waist and a short tail, the image was unmistakably that of a rabbit. The turtle took the painting, placed it within his neck, and withdrew it so completely that it could not be seen. Having secured the painting carefully, the turtle bade farewell to the Dragon King. The Dragon King spoke again.
In ancient times, a ruler once sent his subject in search of the elixir of immortality. Once he departed, he never returned. How pitiful that is. There is no subject as loyal as you. Go swiftly to the human world and bring a rabbit here. If my illness is cured, I shall reward you with land to be passed down through your descendants for generations.
The turtle took his leave and returned home to get ready for his journey. By then, his relatives had already heard the news and gathered to see him off. His mother spoke with concern.
Your father, greedy for food, once bit a fishing hook and died at a young age. And now you, too, set out to seek medicine to cure the king's illness. Devote yourself fully to the task, but if you fail to obtain it, do not even think of returning. Rather, die there and let your bones rest in that place.
I will devote myself with all sincerity to finding the medicine, cure the king's illness, and put your mind at ease. Please do not worry.
Then his wife spoke her farewell.
A husband and wife are not meant to be apart even for a moment. Yet loyalty to one's ruler is greater than the bond between husband and wife. Even if you should die in service to the king, I will bear no regret. I will care well for your aged mother and raise our young children properly, so do not worry about the household. Simply bring the rabbit here and cure the king's illness.
Truly, you are the wife of a loyal subject. I will do as you say. Please take good care of mother, and do not let the children wander far.
After bidding farewell to his wife, his relatives came one by one to offer their parting words. Cousins, uncles, in-laws, even a snail from the land. At last, the turtle set out toward the land. He cut through the blue waves and swam diligently until he reached the shore. Searching for the place where rabbits dwell, he wandered from mountain to mountain. Each peak held legends, and every valley bore traces of stories long past. After roaming across countless mountains, he finally arrived at one place. The sun was setting, and mist began to spread through the valley, covering the mountains. All around was silent, without a single sign of life. He hid himself among the rocks, dozed briefly, then continued on his journey. Walking through the night, he reached a peak where the morning sun shone, and the sound of a waterfall roared loudly. As he sat down to rest, a creature passed by, its body drenched in morning dew, droplets falling from its entire form. Seeing the turtle, it greeted him first.
"Where do you come from?"
Looking closely, the turtle saw that the creature looked remarkably like himself.
Wherever I go, I am but a wanderer, with no fixed home. But who might you be?
Our ancestors once served as officials in the underwater palace of the southern seas. But my grandfather, being upright in character, spoke honestly to the king and was slandered by lesser men, and thus exiled to the human world. Since then, he never returned to his homeland, living instead in the mountains, reciting poetry among the rocks. People who saw him praised him as a model of an upright man who was punished for speaking honestly, and they gave him an honorific title. His integrity and righteousness were beyond reproach. His wife waited endlessly for his return, and in time, she too came to live on land. From then on, our family settled here, bearing children and continuing our line. Since we inherited that title through generations, fathers and sons alike have been called by it. And so it continues even to the great-grandchildren.
Hearing this, the turtle realized that the creature belonged to the same lineage as himself.
Truly, the affairs of the world are beyond comprehension. In the time of our ancestors, there was once a tale that 6 brothers of our lineage, divided into different branches and dwelling in the waters, joined their strength to uphold the sacred mountains. I had believed that their line had ended without descendants. Yet hearing your words, it seems that you are indeed of that lineage.
We were born of the same ancestor, yet scattered across water and land, only now to meet. How could I not rejoice? But for what reason have you, with such a noble presence, come so far?
A great calamity has befallen our underwater palace. There is no one there skilled in choosing a proper dwelling place. And so, having heard that rabbits who live in the mountains possess keen sight, I have come to invite one to our palace. Yet I do not know what a rabbit looks like. For months I have wandered from mountain to mountain, but I have not yet encountered one.
When important matters arise in the mountains, all the furred beasts gather to discuss them. Recently, word came from a squirrel that on the 15th day of this month, there will be a gathering at Mount Nangar. Stay at my home, and on that day come with me. You will surely see a rabbit there.
This was most welcome news. Overjoyed, the turtle followed the mountain turtle to his home. At last, the day of the gathering arrived. The turtle, together with the mountain turtle, went to the gathering place. Countless animals gathered, each displaying its splendid coat. Keeling elephants, lions, bears, monkeys, tigers, deer, roe deer, rabbits, lynxes, foxes, mice, squirrels, raccoon dogs, wild boars, badgers, weasels, eagles, toads. Indeed, it seemed that every creature of the mountains had assembled. Once all had gathered, they began to arrange their seating. Each insisted on yielding the highest place to another, and for a time the place was filled with lively commotion. When all urged the Keeling to take the highest seat, it declined. The Keeling, a mythical creature of Chinese legend, is said to appear only when a virtuous ruler ascends the throne, or when a great person is born.
I am not a creature of this world. Hearing that a noble ruler has newly ascended in the land of the Eastern sages, I merely stopped here on my journey. How could a traveler take the highest seat?
As the Keeling refused to the very end, a separate place was arranged for it to the side. At the center sat the tiger, the ruler of the mountains, and beside him were seated the deer, the roe deer, the rabbit, the fox, the lynx, and others in orderly rows. After the commotion subsided and the seats were settled, the tiger spoke of the purpose of the gathering.
The reason we have gathered today is to discuss the danger that has befallen us. Humans grow more frightening with each passing day, devising countless schemes to hunt and devour us. The forests are diminishing, leaving us with fewer places to hide. At this rate, our kind may vanish entirely. How pitiable our fate has become. Let us put our heads together and seek a solution.
The raccoon dog stepped forward and said,
"The most detestable among them are the hunting dogs. They are creatures just like us, covered in fur and walking on 4 legs, yet they cling to humans and take the lead in killing their own kind. When hunters enter the mountains, we flee with all our strength and barely manage to hide deep within burrows, only for those dogs to chase us down and bark relentlessly. Despite all their effort, the prey they catch belongs to the hunter, and they themselves gain not even a morsel of meat, yet for no reason at all they slaughter their own kind. From now on, we should capture and devour all hunting dogs.
Your words are true. Their actions are indeed detestable, but they accompany the finest hunters. If we act rashly, we will be struck down by bullets. No matter how resentful we may feel, we cannot simply devour them all.
After various discussions, the fox quietly stepped forward and had the squirrel's stores of acorns and chestnuts brought forth, and even demanded that the wild boar's large offspring be offered as food for the tiger. The wild boar was filled with anger, yet had no choice. Seeing this, the righteous bear could remain silent no longer and spoke.
We gathered here today to find a way to escape danger. Yet now the poor mouse and squirrel have lost the food they stored for winter, and the helpless wild boar must sit and watch its child be devoured. If we remain any longer, who knows what further misfortune may befall us. Let us end this here and return.
The tiger, embarrassed, had nothing to say. Muttering vaguely, he brought the meeting to a close, but the fox, angered by the bear's words, harbored resentment in his heart.
That foolish bear! I will deal with him one day.
The animals of the mountains dispersed, each returning home without having achieved anything of value. The turtle, who had remained quietly beside the Namzayang throughout the gathering, observing and listening to all that took place, now rose. As the meeting ended, he followed closely behind a rabbit who was making its way back. When they reached a quiet place where no one else was around, he softly called out to the rabbit.
Good sir, Master Rabbit.
The rabbit, by nature playful and somewhat frivolous, was also small in stature, and thus no one in the mountains treated him with respect. Even creatures as small as mice and squirrels would casually call out to him, "Rabbit, rabbit," as if addressing a child. Having spent his whole life being looked down upon, he was beside himself with delight when someone suddenly addressed him with the refined title, Master. He began hopping excitedly, his whole body trembling with joy.
Who might you be over there? Who is it that calls for me? For what purpose do you seek me? Are you looking for a companion to play Go? A drinking companion? Do you call me to go admire the full moon? Or to enjoy a boat ride?
Babbling whatever came to mind, he hopped this way and that as he approached. The cunning turtle, wishing to observe the rabbit's nature, withdrew his head completely and lay still, indistinguishable from a mere object. When the rabbit came closer, he saw no one, only what appeared to be a lump of stone.
What is this? A dried cow dung or a broken pot shard?
As he puzzled over it, a sudden fear struck him.
Oh no, this is bad. A hunter must have set down his gun and gone to relieve himself. In such times, the best strategy is to run away at once.
Startled by his own imagination, the rabbit fled. The turtle thought to himself, this is a disaster. After finally finding a rabbit, could he simply let it escape? All his efforts would be for nothing. Slowly, he raised his head and called out once more.
Good sir, Master Rabbit.
This time, the rabbit did not leap, but approached slowly, step by step. As he came nearer, he saw the turtle's head emerge, something that had not been there before. It was both strange and unsettling. Keeping his distance, the rabbit asked,
I have lived in these mountains for a long time, yet I have never seen a creature like you. How do you know me, and why do you call me that way?
As the old saying goes, is it not a joy when a friend comes from afar? And yet, when a friend calls to you from afar, you do not even come closer, but instead treat him as a stranger. How discourteous.
Hearing this, the rabbit found the words reasonable. The creature before him looked unusual, and his manner of speaking was refined. He came closer, sat down beside him and asked,
Who might you be?
I am a turtle who serves as a palace official in the underwater kingdom.
The mountains and the waters are worlds apart. What business brings an official of the underwater palace to such deep mountains?
Our Dragon King governs the underwater world and must attend to countless affairs. Yet there are no capable ministers to properly assist him. Thus I have come in search of a worthy individual. I have wandered through all the famous mountains under heaven, yet have found no one suitable. But today, by chance, I witnessed the gathering of the mountain animals. As I lay quietly observing each creature, I realized that the one fit to assist our Dragon King in governing the underwater world was neither the tiger nor the bear, but you alone, sir. That is why I followed you, to invite you to the Dragon Palace.
Such praise was far beyond what the rabbit had ever received. Though grateful, he could hardly believe it.
How could you say that I surpassed the bear or the tiger?
The turtle replied at once, as if he had been waiting for the question.
Judging by your appearance, you possess the qualities of a great minister who could assist a ruler in bringing about a peaceful world. Your bright eyes reveal intelligence that grasps the principles of heaven and earth. Your eloquence recalls the greatest envoys of old, and when you occasionally doze, one is reminded of those legendary strategists whose minds never slept. Among all the animals of the mountains, none surpasses you. If you were to enter our underwater palace, you would surely become a prime minister or a great general, enjoying wealth and honor.
Hearing this, the rabbit felt that the turtle's words matched him perfectly, yet he worried. Having never studied literature, what if there were others in the underwater kingdom more skilled in writing?
How many among the ministers of the underwater palace are skilled in letters?
There are none. When the palace was built, we had to go as far as the human world to invite someone skilled in writing to compose the ceremonial inscription.
Are there any tall ministers in the underwater palace?
When it came time to raise the great beam, they searched for someone tall, and I was chosen. In that vast palace, I am the tallest. If you were to enter, all would be astonished, saying that a giant has arrived.
Hearing this, the rabbit began to think rather highly of himself. He possessed ambition and eloquence, and if there were no scholars or tall officials in the underwater palace, then by any measure he would not fall short. Still, the thought of leaving his beloved mountain home made him hesitate.
It would indeed be good to go with you, but how could I forget the joy of freely roaming these beautiful mountains?
The shallow-minded rabbit, intending to deceive the turtle, began boasting about the beauty of the mountains, yet all of it was exaggerated or false.
In spring, flowers bloom across the mountains in splendid beauty. In summer, one gazes upon white clouds rising above the peaks and escapes the heat in cool mountain streams. In autumn, the red leaves are even more vivid than spring blossoms. In winter, one admires plum blossoms blooming in the snow. Such solitary beauty is unmatched. All year round, I enjoy fine scenery, fresh air, and moonlight without paying a single coin. Living so comfortably with no one to trouble me, how could I leave such a life? Even if the underwater palace is fine, leaving home only brings hardship. I will not go.
Listening to this, the turtle was astonished. I must break his spirit, he thought.
That is quite an exaggeration. Do you think that because I live in water, I know nothing of life in the mountains? Shall I tell you the truth of your miserable existence?
Speak then.
When winter comes, cold winds howl, and snow fills the valleys. There is no grass on the ground, no fruit on the trees, nothing to eat anywhere. You hide in dark crevices, clutching your starving belly. How pitiful that must be. When spring returns, you wander desperately from valley to valley seeking food, only to find traps set everywhere, and hunters surrounding you with swift beasts. You run until your breath burns in your chest, only to have an eagle suddenly descend from the sky. How dreadful that is. In summer, the grass grows thick and the heat is unbearable. Ticks, ants, and countless insects bite your body, yet your tail is too short to swat them away. In autumn, hunters fill every peak and hounds race through every valley. You cannot fly to the sky nor burrow into the earth. How could you think of enjoying autumn leaves or chrysanthemums when you struggle merely to survive? But in our underwater palace, you would cast off all such worries and live in comfort throughout the year. That is why I came to invite you. If you refuse, then it is only you who remain pitiable. I have urgent matters, so I shall be on my way."
With that, the turtle turned and began to crawl away without looking back. Startled, the rabbit hurried after him.
Wait, sir, Master Turtle. Why are you in such a hurry?
I have said all I needed to say. Why do you call me back?
If I go to the underwater palace, will there truly be no such dangers?
Danger is like fire, and water naturally overcomes fire.
Would I not be treated poorly as one who comes from another land?
Do people live only in the land where they were born? Many leave their homeland and achieve greatness elsewhere. Who would look down on you?
Even if I go, let me at least bid farewell to my friends in the mountains.
They will only warn you not to go. If you delay, you may never leave at all.
At least I must inform my wife.
The more important the matter, the more it fails when discussed with one's wife. Go. Achieve success in the underwater palace, and then send a grand carriage to bring her. Would that not be far better?
With every question the rabbit asked, the turtle skillfully deflected and guided him step by step forward. At that moment, a meddlesome young fox suddenly leapt out from behind a bend in the mountain path and called out,
"Hey, Rabbit, where are you going?"
I am going to the underwater palace to enter official service.
"Oh no, do not go.
And why should I not go?
Water is dangerous by nature, and official service is no small danger either. Long ago, there were brilliant ministers and generals who rose to the highest ranks through talent, only to be destroyed in the end by rulers, courtiers, and rivals. If you go to the underwater palace, you too are bound to die in such a way. Is there not an old saying, when the rabbit dies, the fox weeps? If you die, how grieved I shall be. Please, do not go."
The words sounded plausible enough. The rabbit, swayed by the fox's warning, turned to the turtle.
I cannot go. You should go on alone. They say that once one enters official service, one can no longer live freely and may die unjustly in the end. Why should I travel so far only to die?
The turtle thought to himself that the fox had ruined everything at the very last moment. Quietly, he began to drive a wedge between the fox and the rabbit.
So that is your good friend? If he himself has no fortune, how could he ever recommend it to another?
Making an excuse, the turtle turned and began crawling down the mountain without looking back. The rabbit hurried after him.
What do you mean he has no fortune?
It pains me to speak ill of such a close friendship, but since you ask, I will answer. I have been on land for several months now, and during that time the fox once came to me, asking to be taken along, but his appearance was too frivolous, and his heart too cunning. When times are good, he flatters others, but once offended, he will do harm by any means, so I refused him. Now it seems he intends to separate you from me and come in your place.
The rash rabbit believed him at once and cursed the fox.
That fox has always behaved that way. No matter what anyone says, I will follow you, sir.
The two of them descended the mountain together, and after traveling for some time, they arrived at the seashore. The rabbit looked out and was astonished. Blue waters surged endlessly, stretching all the way to the horizon, so vast that he could not tell where the sea ended and the sky began. He startled.
Is all of that water?
Indeed it is.
And you lived in that?
I did.
But would not water enter your nostrils? How could you possibly breathe?
That is why my nostrils are so small.
My nose has large nostrils. What would I do?
Pluck some mugwort and close them up.
And how deep is it?
Why, only about as deep as our ankles.
What nonsense. If one were to fall in there, he would descend for a month without touching the bottom.
I shall go in first. You stand there and see whether I speak truth or lies.
The turtle leapt into the sea and floated lightly upon the water.
Where is it deep?
Are you swimming?
Come in and see for yourself.
Acting clever, the rabbit decided to test it first. Keeping his front paws on the shore, he dipped only his hind feet into the water. In an instant, the turtle rushed forward, seized the rabbit's hind legs and dragged him in. The rabbit fell with a splash and swallowed a great deal of seawater. Whether the rabbit liked it or not, the turtle hoisted him onto his back, floated on the waves, and pressed steadily onward. The rabbit, soaked through and riding on the turtle's back, was in a miserable state. It was as though he were mounted on a galloping tiger. No easy matter to get down, even if he wished to. And as he remained there, the fleshless part between his legs rubbed painfully against the turtle's hard shell until the pain became unbearable.
Sir Turtle, is there no tavern nearby?
And what would you do with a tavern?
I should like to find some suitable tool and drive a handle into your back like a stake, so I might hold on.
If you ride long enough, you will learn the trick of it.
The rabbit's thighs hurt terribly, but worse still, his stomach churned until he thought he might die. Like a man overcome by seasickness on a boat, he vomited everything inside him, down to bitter fluid, while the turtle teased him shamelessly.
Very good. Once you reach the Dragon Palace, fine pills will enter that stomach day and night, so it is best to empty out all the mountain fruits you have eaten and cleanse yourself thoroughly.
Never mind pills, I shall die before I even arrive at the Dragon Palace.
And yet the rabbit did not say that he wished to return to the mountains. Enduring with all his strength, he traveled on for a long while, and little by little he became accustomed to it, until his fear began to fade. Only then did the scenery of the underwater world unfold before his eyes. With the sturdy gait of a sedan bearer, the turtle at last arrived outside the crystal gate of the Dragon Palace. The fish soldiers guarding the gate bowed upon seeing him and asked,
"Have you returned safely? And have you captured the rabbit?"
This one who has come with me is the rabbit. Bind him securely.
With that, the turtle went inside. But when the rabbit heard this, he knew that something was terribly wrong. Quietly, he asked the soldiers,
"For what purpose has the rabbit been brought here?"
Our great king has fallen ill and no medicine has helped him. His life is in danger. Then an immortal came and said that only by eating a rabbit's liver could he recover. So the special palace official was sent to capture one. But what I cannot understand is you. If you were bound to die by coming here, why did you abandon your homeland and follow him all this way?
Hearing this, the rabbit realized that death was indeed upon him. He sat there blinking, lost in thought. Before long, a great commanding cry rang out from within the palace, and all the ministers of the underwater kingdom gathered. In an instant, soldiers bearing flags, spears, and swords lined the hall. Huge whales and enormous fish stood like pillars on either side, while salamanders and serpentine creatures leapt before and behind, holding banners aloft. In such a fearsome atmosphere, the rabbit was brought in. Surrounded by those great-bodied creatures, he looked no larger than a fist. The Dragon King, whose illness had grown worse so that he could scarcely move, saw the rabbit and at once regained some spirit. Throwing open the window, he commanded in a loud voice,
"By the order of heaven, I have guarded the southern sea, sent rain to humankind, and bestowed grace upon the creatures of the waters. Then by chance I fell ill, and it was said that only by eating a rabbit's liver could I recover. Therefore, my loyal palace official captured you and brought you here. If I remove your liver and eat it, and my illness is cured, I shall never forget your merit. I will have your portrait painted and remembered for ages. Build a memorial hall in your honor and inscribe my name so that your grace may be passed down to my descendants for 10,000 generations. If by sacrificing your one life you save mine, will that not be a worthy deed? So do not grieve in the slightest, simply bare your belly and accept the knife."
The rabbit did not answer. Instead, he lifted his head, looked at the Dragon King, and let tears fall. Seeing this, the Dragon King felt pity, thinking that the creature seemed to be dying innocently because of him. Yet since death was unavoidable, he sought at least to comfort him with gentle words.
"Do you weep because you are sorrowful?
Not at all. I do not weep because death is sorrowful. I weep because I cannot die.
What do you mean by that?
I shall explain. A miserable little life like mine is of no account in the human world. At any time, I might become an eagle's meal or a hunter's side dish. If I were to die that way, who would ever know that I had lived in this world? But if my liver were taken out and used to cure your majesty's illness, then my name would be remembered for ages. And if, in addition, your majesty would have my portrait painted and build a memorial hall for me, what greater honor could there be? But this foolish creature came here without bringing his liver, and that is why I weep with such bitterness.
What a fool you are. Even a lie should at least be plausible if you wish someone to believe it. Your body is here. How can you claim that the liver inside your belly did not come with you?
Instead of answering, the rabbit merely looked upward and smiled.
Do you smile because your deceit has been exposed and you have nothing left to say?
I have plenty to say, but seeing one as exalted as your majesty so ignorant, I cannot help but laugh. Your majesty commands transformations at will, rises into the heavens, summons clouds, sends rain, and knows the principles of heaven and earth in every detail. Yet do you not know that rabbits can remove and replace their livers as they please? Even children gathering firewood know this. How can one such as your majesty be so ignorant? The moon waxes until the full moon, then wanes again after it has passed. That is why people have long linked rabbits with the changing moon. The tides of the sea too advance and retreat, swelling at one time and diminishing at another. Our rabbit livers are like the moon and like the tides. Before the full moon, we keep them inside our bellies. After the full moon, we take them out and set them aside, so that their energy may fill and empty, advance and withdraw in constant rhythm. That is why our livers make such fine medicine. If they remained always inside us like the livers of other beasts, why would anyone specifically say that rabbit liver is precious? On the 15th day of this month, there was a gathering of mountain beasts. Before going there, I removed my liver, wrapped it in a banana leaf, and hung it high on the branch of a pine tree atop the mountain. To put it back into my belly, I must wait until the first day of next month. But since I met the special palace official at the gathering and came here directly with him, how could I possibly have brought my liver?
Hearing this, the Dragon King found the reasoning almost convincing. If only he had asked the immortal more carefully about the matter of rabbit liver when the medicine was first prescribed. But regret was of no use now. Still wishing to confirm it, he questioned the rabbit once more.
How can you, having no hands, take a liver in and out of your belly?
A rabbit has a separate opening through which the liver comes out. If we merely tense our belly, the liver slips out through that opening, and if we swallow it through the mouth, it goes back in.
Do you truly mean to say that there is a separate opening from which the liver comes out?
There are 3 openings in my backside. Through one I pass stool, through another I pass urine, and through the third I pass my liver.
The Dragon King ordered his attendants to examine the rabbit's rear. When they looked, there did indeed appear to be 3 openings. Only then did the Dragon King believe the rabbit's words.
If your liver is not here, how then am I to cure my illness?
If your majesty will trust me, then send me back to land. Once I return to the mountains, I shall bring not only my own liver, but many others belonging to the rabbits who have hung theirs up alongside mine.
The turtle was left speechless, and the rabbit's life was spared. Lying there beside them and listening to the exchange between the Dragon King and the rabbit, the turtle felt as though his heart were collapsing. He had suffered beyond words to bring that creature this far. Worse still, though he had never even met the rabbit's wife, how could he possibly go and find her? No matter how he thought about it, he could not believe this talk of a rabbit traveling without its liver. Even if he had to return to land and capture another rabbit, it seemed better first to cut open this one's belly and see for himself.
There is no record in history that a rabbit can remove and replace its liver, nor does such a claim accord with reason. Cut open this creature's belly, and if there is truly no liver inside, then I myself shall go out again and bring back another rabbit. But first, Your Majesty, cut open this one and see.
I had refrained from reporting all that you have done to the Dragon King, bearing it only because of the affection born of the long journey we suffered together across 10,000 li of sea. But you become more unruly by the moment. When you first met me in the mountains, it happened to be the full moon, the very day when hundreds of my kin removed their livers all at once. If you had revealed your true purpose then, I would have chosen several among those hundreds whose medicinal power was strongest. But instead, you concealed your heart and deceived me, saying that I was to enter office in the underwater palace. That was your first wrongdoing. And now you would commit another? The Dragon King's illness is grave, and either you or I must go out and fetch the liver if he is to be cured. Yet instead of thinking how to obtain it, you scheme only to kill me. And if you cut open my belly and there is no liver there, then what will you do? Even if you return to the mountains, word will already have spread that I went to the underwater palace to enter service. Which rabbit would so much as glance at you then? In that case, not only will you fail to get a rabbit, you may not even save your own life. And how then will the Dragon King's illness be cured? You speak without any thought for what comes before or after, uttering only nonsense. And you call yourself a loyal subject? No. Not a loyal subject, but a disgrace that would ruin the kingdom. As for me, even if I die here, I shall have no grievance. Go on then. Cut open my belly. Yes, cut it open.
The rabbit thrust out his belly boldly again and again, while the turtle, having no answer, merely crouched there, blinking his eyes. From above, the Dragon King saw that the rabbit's words fit the situation all too well. The Dragon King looked around at the ministers of the court.
What should be done about this matter?
The Minister of Justice, the grey mullet, stepped forward.
When guilt is difficult to determine, it is said that punishment should be made light. And when sentence is passed, the accused should be pitied. We cannot know for certain whether this rabbit truly has its liver or not. If we rashly cut open its belly and there is no liver, then we will have failed in mercy towards the accused. Therefore, Your Majesty, do not cut open his belly.
The Minister of War, the trout, also came forward.
It is said that if one uses fine bait, there will always be fish that bite. Since we have already decided not to kill him, let us soothe the rabbit's heart and win him over.
The Dragon King resolved to follow this advice. Changing his expression and forcing a smile, he scolded the special palace official and greatly honored the rabbit.
Master Rabbit's words are entirely correct. It was my own foolishness not to speak plainly from the beginning. Had I explained the matter in full, it would have ended well for both sides. I shall not dwell on what has already passed. Attend to Master Rabbit and escort him to a place of honor.
No sooner had the words been spoken than the palace attendants rushed down and helped the rabbit up. Full of swagger, the rabbit lifted his forepaws like a monkey and trotted forward on his hind feet. When he came up beside the Dragon King, a special seat had already been prepared for him. The Dragon King then addressed him once more with renewed courtesy.
Though water and land are different realms, your great reputation has long been known. I had wished to pay you a visit myself, yet instead I have caused you to come all the way to this underwater palace. I am truly ashamed.
Reputation, it is hardly worth mentioning. Still, it astonishes me that some immortal should have spoken my name.
How many days will it take you to return to land, fetch your liver, and come back?
If the water route is 8,000 li, then, with the special palace official carrying me day and night without rest, it will take 4 days. And once we reach land, if I carry him to the mountain day and night, it will take 3 more. 7 days to go, 7 days to return, allowing generously. I shall be back within 15 days.
The rabbit is feasted and freely toys with the ministers of the underwater palace. The Dragon King, overjoyed, held a great feast in honor of the rabbit. Splendid folding screens were set up, and beautiful music filled the hall. Lovely maidens danced gracefully, holding little bells, and young singers sang in clear voices. Cheerful music played without pause, while wine and food overflowed in abundance. Though arranged in haste, the feast was no less grand than the celebration held when the palace was first completed. The frivolous rabbit drank his fill, and as the wine rose to his head, he began dancing with the heavenly maidens, speaking impudently.
Leave aside my liver. Even a mere kiss from me would let you live 300 or 400 years without trouble.
The maidens, intrigued, all came running one after another to kiss the rabbit. After all manner of mischief, the rabbit lifted his head and looked toward the wind wall of the palace hall, where the ridge beam inscription was hanging. Seeing it, he affected the air of a connoisseur.
In the opening phrase of that inscription, it says, "The dragon's bones were hung to serve as the beam." But since this is the Dragon King's palace, the words dragon's bones do not seem appropriate.
Indeed, you are quite right. Master Rabbit, please amend it with better characters.
It would be best to replace the character for dragon with the character for whale. But since bringing back the liver is urgent, I shall attend to that after I return.
At last the feast came to an end, and as the rabbit took leave of the Dragon King, the king, seeking to flatter him, turned to the ministers.
Master Rabbit's merit is beyond measure. Once he returns with the liver, what office should be granted him, and what reward would suffice to repay his grace?
The Minister of Personnel, the Perch?
Master Rabbit's talent is extraordinary. Grant him a noble title, appoint him to high office, and place him among the greatest advisors of the court.
The Minister of Revenue, the Puffer Fish?
Titles and offices alone will not be enough to repay Master Rabbit's great merit. You should grant him rich land as well, broad fields by a great lake, with all the grass and fruit they produce.
But the rabbit, deliberately feigning humility.
If only your majesty eats my liver and your illness is cured, then nothing else matters to me. I shall be satisfied with that alone.
Having finished his farewells, he passed out through the gates of the Dragon Palace together with the special palace official, and at last felt a great weight lift from his heart. Now surely he would live.
Hurrying here, we passed by without even knowing what place was what. But today, do not do that. Tell me in detail whatever I ask along the way, and in return I shall give you a piece of fine liver so that you too may live long.
Again the rabbit rode on the turtle's back and came out onto land. The turtle thought to himself that his life now depended on the rabbit. It would be best to obey him meekly, so he agreed, and the rabbit, delighted, began asking about everything he saw, while the turtle answered with all that he knew.
What is that place we just passed over there?
That is a famous terrace celebrated in old poems.
And what is that over there?
That is another place beloved by poets, where people speak of mist, distance, and sorrow.
And that over there?
Those are rivers long associated with parting and lament.
And what about that?
That is a splendid pavilion praised for its sunset and river view.
So the two went on, asking and answering about everything they saw, perfectly in step with one another. One asked, the other replied, and while they exchanged words back and forth, they crossed the wide sea and at last reached land. Once ashore, the rabbit went ahead, and the turtle crawled along behind him. The turtle was returning to the Dragon Palace, and the rabbit was returning to the mountains. The rabbit burned with resentment and longed to demand a full accounting of the turtle's crime. Yet if he made a mistake and those hard jaws clamped onto his leg, dragging him back into the water, that too would be disastrous. So he suppressed his anger and simply walked on in silence. After they had gone a long way, until the sea could no longer be seen, the rabbit suddenly leapt up onto a rock and shouted at the turtle.
You wretched turtle! If I were to reckon up your crime, even killing you would not satisfy my anger. If the Dragon King had not been as gullible as he was, or if I had not possessed such quick wit, my precious life would surely have become the spirit of one wronged beneath the waves. They say that fish and beasts of the land are about equally foolish, but from what I have seen, scaled creatures are far more foolish than those with fur. How could a liver attached inside the belly be taken in and out at will? When I think of what you did, I ought to drag you into the mountains, gather all my companions, boil you alive, dip you in vinegar, pepper paste, and make you the main dish at a great feast with white liquor. Still, when I consider it carefully, I cannot say that the blame is yours alone. What you did for your king. So I will not rebuke you too harshly. And besides, I rode on your back across that vast sea. So, in memory of the hardships we shared together in danger, I shall spare your life. Know that, and be on your way.
As though bestowing some great favor, he went on speaking at length.
I promise to send your Dragon King a good medicine. And how could a gentleman such as I break his word? It is said that my droppings are effective in reducing fever, so people gather them and give them to sick children. Judging by your king's complexion, the heat had risen to his face and dimmed his eyes. If he eats my droppings, his illness will be cured. Take them back and feed them to him.
No sooner had he finished speaking than he produced a great many pellet-like droppings. Wrapping them carefully in leaves, he loaded them onto the turtle's back and tied them there with vine, and so the turtle carried them back to the underwater palace. Having entered the very place of death and barely escaped with his life, then returned once more to the place where he had lived. How joyful the rabbit was. Hopping along, he began boasting to himself.
Many famous heroes of old chased glory far from home only to die before they could ever return. But I, thanks to my marvelous talent, deceived the Dragon King with nothing but my tongue at the very brink of danger and crossed the waters back again. How wonderful, how wonderful, how dear is my homeland. The blue mountains and clear waters remain unchanged, just as I remember them. That green peak wrapped in white clouds is where I used to sit and play, and those fruit trees covered in vines are where I used to gather fruit. Uncle Raccoon Dog, have you been well? Brother Badger, are you keeping well? Never think of seeking office and never think of moving away. When one enters office, the body is endangered. When one leaves home, one's fate turns harsh. Let us remain here among these familiar blue mountains and moonlit winds, among our old companions, and enjoy ourselves together day and night.
Meanwhile, the turtle returned to the underwater palace carrying the rabbit's droppings. Just as the rabbit had said, the Dragon King ate them and recovered from his illness. Thus, the turtle came to be honored as a loyal subject, while the rabbit, it is said, followed the immortal up to the palace on the moon and has been preparing medicine there ever since. Though the rabbit and the turtle are nothing but insignificant creatures, their loyalty and remarkable wisdom are said to be no less than that of human beings, and many songs were made about them and spread throughout the world. If a person bearing the name of man proves inferior to a rabbit or a turtle, would that not be shameful? Take heed, all of you. What you have just heard is the story of Sugungga, or the Tale of the Rabbit. It is a work that took shape in written form out of a pansori performance tradition popular among commoners in the late Joseon period. But let us pause for a moment and return to the very first sentence of the story. Long, long ago, in a time when kings ruled their own kingdoms, dragon kings governed the underwater world, each presiding over one of the 4 great seas. This is not merely background information. It is closer to a worldview proposed by the narrator. Just as there are kings in the human world, there are dragon kings in the underwater world. There are immortals in the heavens, dragon kings in the sea, and animals upon the land. This world does not have to be understood solely as a vertical structure of domination. It may also be described as a horizontal division in which each being fulfills its role within its own proper realm. Interestingly, the basic principle behind the creation of Hangul offers a concise summary of this worldview. The fundamental elements of Hangul vowels are 3: a dot symbolizing heaven, a horizontal line symbolizing earth, and a vertical line symbolizing the human being. This is called Cheon-jin, heaven, earth, and human. It is the idea that heaven, earth, and human beings each occupy their proper place and together constitute the world. If there is any true principle of this world, then it must apply equally in heaven, on earth, and among human beings. This horizontal division appears in the story in a very subtle way. The immortal who comes to visit the ailing Dragon King speaks to him using honorific language, and the Dragon King likewise addresses the immortal with honorifics. The king of the sea and the immortal of heaven raise one another up. This does not mean there is no hierarchy, but rather that hierarchy here does not operate as domination and subordination. To understand this, one must briefly explain the structure of honorifics in Korean. Korean contains both endings that raise the listener and endings that lower the speaker. By choosing which ending to use, the speaker defines the nature of the relationship. To speak in honorifics is to declare, in effect, I recognize you as someone worthy of respect within this relationship. That the Dragon King and the immortal speak honorifically to one another means that they recognize each other as possessing equal authority within their own respective realms. Now let us turn to the setting. The story is set in the late Goryeo period, but this is curious. Sugungga flourished in the late Joseon period. Why then would its author choose to set the story hundreds of years earlier rather than in his own time? A first hypothesis is simple enough: to avoid direct criticism of contemporary power. If one mocks the king of one's own day, punishment follows. If one mocks a dragon king of the Goryeo period, no one can object. Temporal and spatial distance becomes a protective screen for satire. A second hypothesis is more interesting. Perhaps the author was thinking something like this: what I am about to describe is not a problem of joseon alone. It existed in Goryeo, it exists in joseon, and it will likely exist thereafter as well. In other words, rather than recording the events of one particular age, the work seeks to capture a pattern that repeats across ages. If that is so, then the text begins to resemble an observational report on the principles governing human collective behavior. Let us look at the scene in which the immortal diagnoses the Dragon King's illness. The immortal says, "Your Majesty's noble body is unlike that of human beings. A body such as yours cannot be healed by the needles or medicines used for human beings." This short passage touches on a debate that has run through the history of medicine for thousands of years, the problem of universality and particularity. Let us imagine a scenario that may help us understand this tension, something that might plausibly have unfolded in the history of East Asian medicine. A physician prescribes a remedy, but it does not work. Why not? Perhaps because different people have different constitutions. So human beings are divided into 4 types: Tayomin, Tayangin, Soyomin, Soyangin. Now, a prescription is made specifically for a Soyomin patient, yet still it does not work. Perhaps the error lies in the season. It is winter, but the physician has prescribed something suited to summer. So another axis is added, that of the seasons. As each new axis is added, the prescription becomes more precise. This is an imagined sequence, to be sure, but it is not so far from the logic of medicine operating according to principle. When one treatment does not fit, one divides more finely, and then more finely still, searching for the place where principle and case coincide. The content of that principle in East Asian medicine may not be describable in the language of modern science. But what is interesting is that remedies derived according to such principles sometimes do in fact heal. The explanation for why they heal may differ, but the fact of healing itself can still be confirmed. Modern medicine does not ignore this problem either. Precision medicine, personalized treatment, and therapies based on individual genomic analysis all move in this direction. Recognizing the limits of universal prescriptions, they proceed by considering individual conditions alongside general rules. The scene in which the immortal diagnoses the Dragon King follows precisely this structure. The immortal first recognizes that the Dragon King is not human, that he is a being to whom universal remedies do not apply. Then he narrows the axes according to principle. The direction of reasoning itself is not mistaken. The problem lies in the conclusion to which that reasoning arrives. Having carefully reasoned through the matter, I believe that only the liver of a 1,000-year-old rabbit can cure you. There is one word that matters more than any other in this entire story: principle. The word recurs throughout the narrative, and each time it appears, it fails a little more. Principle was one of the central concepts of Neo-Confucianism, the dominant ideology of Joseon. The idea was that all things in the world possess a reason why they must be as they are. That is, a principle. If one grasps principle, one can make correct judgments. If one follows principle, the world will function as it ought. By the late Joseon period, however, cracks had begun to appear in this faith. People grew aware that no matter how much one discussed principle, real problems remained unsolved. As a counterforce to this, the silhak tradition emerged. Practical learning thinkers asked a different question. Leaving principle aside, what is it that actually works? What I take to be the central context of Sugungga is precisely this tension between principle and empirical effectiveness. This is a story in which those who believe in principle are defeated, one after another, by a small rabbit that possesses no principle at all. To trace the failure of principle from beginning to end, this, I think, is the most important point from which to view the work. Let us look more closely at the immortal's reasoning. The rabbit absorbs the energy of the dawn sun, and when the elixir of immortality is pounded on the moon, it absorbs the energy of the moon as well. Receiving equally the essences of sun and moon, its vital force strengthens the liver. In traditional medicine, the eyes are connected with the liver, and the rabbit is famed for its bright eyes. That is proof enough that its liver is exceptionally strong. Let us break the structure of this logic apart. The rabbit is associated with the moon implies the moon is associated with immortality. Implies therefore the rabbit is associated with immortality. The rabbit has bright eyes implies the eyes are connected to the liver, implies therefore the rabbit's liver must be strong. Earlier I spoke of the logic of principle as something that becomes more precise by adding axes and refining distinctions. Here, however, it begins to move in another direction entirely. It mistakes association for causation. There is an intuition at work here that things which resemble one another must be connected. This is what we might call the similarity heuristic. And when one perceives patterns even where no real pattern exists, that is what is called apophenia. This is not a problem unique to one age or region. In the 2nd century, the Roman physician Galen argued that walnuts were good for the brain. The reason was simple. Walnuts look like the brain. This logic remained seriously entertained in European medicine all the way into the 16th century. The illusion that like heals like was a common error of humanity at large. The immortals principle becomes increasingly precise, only to fall at the final step into the trap of resemblance. Yet to the people of that time, the argument would have sounded perfectly persuasive, and it is precisely that persuasiveness which sets all the subsequent events in motion. Now let us turn to the moment when the Dragon King gives his order and the officials come flooding in. The left chancellor, the turtle, and the right chancellor, the carp, along with ministers of every department, generals, scholars, and magistrates, all the fish officials of the underwater court gathered at once, and the smell of fish filled the air. Here I want to pause over one question. Who is the narrator of this story? The narrator is not a fish. If he were, he would not perceive the fishy smell as fishy. For a being born and raised underwater, the smell of fish would be like air itself. Yet the narrator describes the gathering of the officials by saying that the smell of fish filled the air. That is the smell as perceived by a human nose. The narrator is clearly viewing this scene through human senses. Even if a lion could speak, we would not be able to understand it. Language operates within a form of life, and where forms of life differ, understanding between beings may become impossible. Yet the narrator of Sugungga moves in exactly the opposite direction. He translates the world of fish into human language, but does not conceal the trace of that translation. The word fishy smell is that trace. In that single word, the narrator reveals himself as an observer. This is one of the defining features of the pansori-based novel form. The one who conveys the tale is not a being inside the story. He is a human being standing before an audience, peering into another world and telling of what he sees. Now consider the scene in which Turtle and Carp boast of their lineages. The Dragon King asks, "Do you know the duty that must be observed between king and subject?" To this question, Turtle does not answer by explaining loyalty. Instead, he begins by boasting of his ancestry, the turtle from the Luo River, the divinatory turtle of the Zhou dynasty. Carp does the same. The fact that Confucius's son had a name meaning carp, the legend of the Dragon Gate. Asked how loyalty should be practiced, they respond by recounting how important their ancestors were in history. This may seem deeply frustrating, but the logical structure of the age itself may well have been built in just this way. Within the ideological foundation of joseon, the grounds for correct judgment lay in gosa, historical precedents, tales of the past. The sages acted thus. The worthy men of history acted thus. Therefore, we too must act thus. This is how principle operates. Rather than analyzing a present problem in terms of present reality, one secures legitimacy by comparing it to past examples. This structure is highly stable because precedent appears already to have been verified, but it is also powerfully rigid. Asked what loyalty is, one answers not with the substance of loyalty, but with a list of loyal ancestors. And this rigidity repeats throughout the whole story. The officials are armed with principle and precedent, yet no one actually wishes to go and fetch the rabbit. Those who know the most principle are the first to evade responsibility. And amid all this, what sort of figure was the one who eventually stepped forward, volunteered, and won approval? What did you think when you read the scene where the turtle introduces himself before the Dragon King? The turtle says, "It was said that the spirit of loyalty entered our line through my ancestors, and because of that, I too was born with loyalty already in me." To modern eyes, it sounds like absurd sophistry, but to audiences in joseon, this scene was not mere nonsense. It was a savage joke aimed at the bloodline-centered ideology that dominated society at the time. To understand the structure of that joke, it helps to know something about the status system of the period. As one example, let us think about ilcheon jokcheon, one of the systems by which the nobi class was reproduced. Ilcheon jokcheon was a terrifying law under which a child became a slave if even one parent was a slave. From the late Goryeo period through the era of Mongol interference, the population declined and labor became desperately needed. For the ruling class, slaves were assets. That is why this mechanism, which increased the number of slaves as quickly as possible, was preserved into the early Joseon period. The turtle's logic is an extreme extension of this bloodline determinism. Even if our blood was never mixed, so my very root is loyal. This claim acts as a mirror held up to Joseon ideology, mocking its obsession with lineage and blood. But by the late Joseon period, when the tale of the rabbit was widely enjoyed, this once solid logic of bloodline was beginning to crack under the pressure of cost-benefit calculation. That turning point was the implementation of the Nobi Jongmo Beop, the law that made a child follow the status of the mother. The more slaves there were, the fewer commoners there were to pay taxes. There were also fewer people available for military service, which weakened national defense. Slaves did not pay taxes. For the sake of governing the state, King Yongzhou pushed through a law declaring that if the mother was a commoner, the child would also be a commoner. Here a paradox emerges. This was an age in which yesterday's slave could become today's commoner, and purchased genealogies called Gongmyongcheop were everywhere. Audiences had already experienced for themselves that bloodline was something mutable, something that could be changed at any time by the needs of the state or by money. Against that historical background, how would the turtle's desperate flattery have looked? The world was already being reorganized according to cost-benefit calculation and practical ability, yet the turtle was still enthusiastically imitating the logic of the old order, saying in effect, "My ancestors are such and such, and therefore I am this kind of being." To the audience, he must have looked like stupidity in its purest form. The turtle tries to show loyalty by perfectly internalizing the logic of the system, but the audience already knows that the system itself is a fiction, and so this becomes a moment that gives them a sense of intellectual superiority as they laugh at him. That audience is an essential element of pansori. It is not simply that the singer performs and the audience shouts interjections like "Hiolsaigu" or "good." The singer reads the audience's reactions and adjusts the speed and depth of the story in real time. The fact that the original text inserts explanations such as Zhuge Liang was the legendary military strategist of Shu during China's Three Kingdoms period, and he is used as a symbol of exceptional wisdom and strategy, is evidence of that. The laughter that burst out in the turtle scene too could only fully resonate on the basis of a shared historical sensibility among the people gathered there that day, namely the felt unreality of bloodline logic. Now let us think about the next episode, the scene in which they somehow produce a perfectly accurate picture of a rabbit they have never seen. The turtle has decided to obtain the rabbit's liver, so he must go look for a rabbit. But there is a problem. No one in the underwater palace has ever seen a rabbit. And Abalone offers information by appealing to an entirely groundless theory of reincarnation, saying, "In my previous life, I was a pheasant." He then passes along what he claims to remember to a mermaid who is a painter. The mermaid, having understood the result of that language as best she can, forms an image or concept of it in her mind and transfers it into a painting. Strangely enough, the rabbit in the picture is exactly what a real rabbit looks like. This process is, so to speak, a total mess. There are far too many points at which error might arise. First, the claim, "I was a pheasant in a previous life," is not the kind of experience universally shared by all subjects of perception. So, regardless of what result it may eventually produce, it functions first as an assumption that everyone agrees not to question. Next, the abalone passes his inner image onto the mermaid. The possible error here is that even if he really had seen a rabbit because he truly was a pheasant in a past life, he might still have described it poorly and conveyed it incorrectly. And even if everything had worked properly up to that point, the mermaid might have lacked the interpretive ability to reconstruct in language the representation that existed in the abalone's mind, and so might have misunderstood him. Even if, by some very small chance, she understood the abalone's language correctly, her painting skills might still have been so poor that what emerged was something not at all rabbit-like. And yet after all those assumptions piled on top of assumptions piled on top of assumptions, what comes out in the end is somehow a real rabbit picture. When we think about something, we can divide our thinking into function and principle. From the perspective of principle, attention is focused on correct reasoning and legitimacy. Truth ought to be derived through a transparent and proper process. Seen from that perspective, the abalone's claim about having been a pheasant in a past life is suspicious information, lacking evidence, and impossible to verify. From that point of view, the picture ought to be a fundamentally defective result from the very start. But the work brazenly presents us with an accurate picture of a rabbit. For some people, what matters is whether it actually works. It is not their main concern whether the abalone really was a pheasant or whether the mermaid understood him properly. In the end, if the turtle takes that picture up onto land and the real rabbit and the picture match, then that entire ridiculous process is justified as a successful black box. Interestingly enough, the figures in this underwater palace have never seen a rabbit, even once. Since not a single one of them has actually seen a rabbit, there is no one who can judge whether the picture is correct or incorrect. Everyone is simply believing what they want to believe. What gives this scene its flavor is the irony layered on top of that ridiculous collective certainty. The picture really does turn out to be right. At this point, I would like to introduce a passage that sharply reveals the thought of Park Ji-won, one of the important silhak thinkers of joseon. When heaven created human beings, it made them into 4 kinds, and among them, the seonbi is the most noble. The seonbi is also called a yangban, and there is nothing more profitable than that. He does not farm, does not trade, and if he merely skims through a few books, at best he passes the higher civil service examination, and at worst he is guaranteed at least the rank of jinsa. First he drags over the neighbor's cow and makes it plow his field. Then he drags over the villagers and makes them weed it. Who would dare look down on me? And if anyone should do so, even if I were to pour lye into his nose, seize him by his top knot, swing him around and slap his face, he would not dare resent me. From Park Ji-won, Yang Banjon. This ferocious satire of Park Ji-won shares much with the episodes in The Tale of the Rabbit. In truth, the original purpose of Neo-Confucianism was not bad at all. It was meant to build an elaborate system through which one could achieve moral completion by cultivating oneself and then govern the world peacefully on the basis of that moral character. To value orthodoxy and correct principle was a powerful tool for maintaining social order. But over time, this system was corrupted. As with the Yangban Park Ji-won describes, all that remained was the representational shell of the scholar, while the substance disappeared, leaving only strained logic and violence for the sake of preserving privilege. The attitude that says, because I am a yangban, my word is law, calls to mind the abalone's logic when he says, because I was a pheasant in a past life, my memory is therefore the rabbit. In a situation where Neo-Confucianism had collapsed into suffocating verbal wrangling and empty argument, silhak emerged with tremendous momentum. Silhak thinkers say this: no matter how noble the process pretends to be, what use is it if it starves the people and sickens the country? This scene from The Tale of the Rabbit shows exactly that point through satire and humor in a way that even people without extensive formal education could grasp. The abalone's information is absurd, and the mermaid's understanding is doubtful, but the rabbit picture they produce nonetheless becomes the only practical tool capable of curing the king's illness. In the end, this picture mocks the old logic of an earlier age, the logic that clung to stale pretense and poured lie into people's noses, and shows how true knowledge is that which helps the world, even if its origin is lowly. English-speaking viewers may have found the scene where the turtle meets the pond turtle somewhat contrived, but Korea has a distinctive way of confirming identity. Koreans do not simply ask for a surname when they first meet. They ask, which Kim clan are you from? Referring to one's Bongwan, or which branch and which generation of the lineage are you from? Bloodline in Korea is a vast network that begins with an ancestral founder from hundreds of years ago and spreads across the country. People may forget about this network in everyday life, but the moment they confirm that they share the same root in a strange place, a powerful feeling of we-ness can suddenly erupt. In the past, a family that lost out in a power struggle might be sent into exile, or one branch might settle elsewhere when life grew difficult. Even so, when they meet again, they still know enough to identify the place from which that branch came, the address, so to speak, by which they can confirm it. The work places these two scenes side by side in a very clever way. In one, bloodline is used instrumentally, as in, my ancestors were the loyal ministers and therefore I too am loyal. In the other, that very same bloodline causes someone to open his heart and offer help to a total stranger. The work places the two together and leaves the judgment to the audience. The work seems to show, through the gathering of the animals in the mountain, how a failing system actually operates. The purpose of the gathering is to solve a crisis, but what actually happens is that they decide who should sit in the highest seat, confirm who possesses how much dignity and face, and identify the internal victims whose resources can be taken away. The tiger, who bears the responsibility of protecting the members of the group, outwardly adopts a fair and principled stance, but in the face of the new violence represented by human beings and firearms, he cannot produce any real solution. The work reveals how ridiculous authority becomes once it has lost all practical effectiveness. The passage in which the raccoon dog condemns the hunting dogs is also interesting. The hunting dogs have the same outward form as beasts, yet they have been incorporated into the order of human beings and now pursue their own kind. And yet the animals fear the hunters themselves, while pouring out their anger only on the hunter's tools, the dogs. This shows the tragedy of people at the bottom coming to hate one another because they cannot solve the real problem. The fox who appears here is, so to speak, a false pragmatist. He steps forward as though he is going to solve the crisis, but what his action actually amounts to is nothing more than squeezing the blood out of the weak in order to fill the belly of the strong. It is not pragmatism at all, but brutal extraction carried out in the name of solving a shared crisis. The bear alone speaks to the heart of the matter, but he changes nothing, and instead only earns the fox's resentment. Saying what is right in a public forum and actually moving the order of things are completely different matters. The bear is a being with morality but without strategy. What the turtle does in this exhibition of collective incompetence is, on the contrary, rather clever. He lies flat, says nothing, and watches how the system actually works. Then, when he approaches the rabbit, he does not address him as he really is, but first wraps him in the kind of social representation he would like to hear. Was the turtle's strategy the right one? How will the rabbit respond in the next part? What the turtle displays here can be read as a kind of use of theory of mind. The turtle is not simply blurting out random falsehoods. He is running a second mind inside his own head, a simulation of the rabbit's mind. What he demonstrates cannot be adequately described as mere loyalty. Through sheer observation, he instantly picks up on a few crucial data points: that the rabbit responds to the honorific master, and that he is vulnerable to forms of lack such as the desire for recognition and the dream of upward mobility. When information is processed fluently, people are more likely to accept it as true. The turtle overwhelms the rabbit's critical thinking with a smooth, uninterrupted narrative that leaves no room for objection. The Dragon King, meanwhile, sets the wrong KPI from the start. In what should have been an interview for the task, "Who is capable of bringing me the rabbit's liver?" he instead asks, "Who is most loyal to me?" The turtle gets the job by offering the bizarre logic that it was said that the spirit of loyalty entered our line through them, and because of that, I too was born with loyalty already in me. That has nothing to do with the actual skills required, deception, persuasion, or the ability to survive on land. If the turtle had been loyal but lacked verbal cunning, he would not even have managed to start a conversation with the rabbit. He would have been eaten by the mountain beasts before accomplishing anything. The Dragon King sent out a faithful servant, but by luck, that servant also happened to possess the talents of a natural-born con artist. This is not a matter of moral virtue, it is a matter of cognitive skill. The Dragon King's real assignment is deceive the rabbit and bring him here. But the question he effectively asks is, how loyal were your ancestors? Systems demand legitimacy. Reality demands technique. The turtle is a deceptive technician who bridges that gap with remarkable precision. It would be too simplistic to treat the rabbit, who falls for all this, as nothing more than a fool. What happens to him is a much more intricate process, in which self-deception is produced by the interplay between lack and the desire to see only what one already wants to believe. The scene where the rabbit first mistakes the turtle for a pot lid or a lump of cow dung is not merely comic, it shows the rabbit's first lack. He knows almost nothing about the underwater world. A second lack is that within mountain society, he does not really have a name. He is just one more frivolous little creature. When the turtle addresses him as Master Rabbit, that functions as proof of social existence. Before asking the rabbit to give up his liver, the turtle first feeds him something like a narcotic, a social identity. A third lack emerges more directly. The rabbit asks whether there are any officials in the underwater court who are educated, and whether any of them are large in stature. To the turtle, those questions would have sounded like this: "I'm afraid they will look down on me because I am not well educated, and I have always had a complex about my small size." The turtle's response there is excellent. There are none. In one move, he soothes the rabbit's anxieties and reinforces the fantasy that in that world, he could become a unique and incomparable being. With every question, the rabbit's escape route narrows, and the turtle's net grows tighter. The rabbit's deepest tragedy lies in his groundless self-confidence. He probably spent his life thinking, "I am this clever. I speak this well, so why do the mountain beasts look down on me?" Then the turtle appears and tells him, "You have the qualities of a minister greater even than the tiger." The rabbit's mind receives this as a truth finally discovered. It is the final confirmation of the self-image he has been waiting for his entire life. The rabbit is deceived by the turtle, but at the same time he sells himself over to the lie he has always wanted to believe, borrowing the turtle's voice to do it. What is interesting is that the turtle works by assuming a certain universality, and those assumptions turn out to be correct. Surely the underwater world, like the mountain world, has situations where capable people are not properly recognized. Surely high office comes with privilege. Surely even in the mountains there is some equivalent of office and rank. In the previous episode, the abalone produces an accurate image of the rabbit on the basis of a groundless memory from a previous life. Here, a similar pattern repeats itself. The turtle does not know these things for certain. He simply projects the logic of his own world outward, and it works. The rabbit does the same thing. Instead of studying the specificity of the underwater world, he projects onto it the grammar of the mountain world that he already knows. The premises offered by the turtle, that power is sweet, that ability ought to be rewarded, that there exists a heroic narrative in which one leaves home and succeeds elsewhere, all sound so universal and self-evident to the rabbit that he fails to see the specific purpose hidden inside them, namely that he is being brought there to surrender his liver. The turtle's fraud succeeds precisely because universality really does operate. The mountain world, too, has hierarchy, lack, and a desire for recognition. These exist as premises no one even thinks to question. In other words, this work says, do not trust principles, while the very basis of that warning is the fact that principles really do work. For a work to satirize universality, universality has to exist, and because it exists, the object of satire is precisely the person who is fooled by it. The message, question the principle itself, stands on top of the actual functioning of principle. I think this concretely shows the major tension in this work, the same tension I mentioned in the previous commentary, between principle and efficacy. When the turtle speaks about the dragon palace, when the rabbit speaks about the mountain, and when the turtle rebuts the rabbit's description of mountain life, it is hard to say that any of it is simply false. The turtle speaks of the splendor and safety of the dragon palace, safety at least in the sense that there are no tigers there. The rabbit speaks of the beautiful 4 seasons in the mountains. What each of them hides is only the reverse side of that landscape. In that sense, what they offer is selective truth. We reconstruct the world by gathering fragments of appearances, the fragments each of us wants to see. The turtle gives the rabbit exactly the fragments he wants, and the rabbit eagerly pieces them together into his own ruin. By this point, the rabbit is already moving in a fixed direction. His lack, his self-confidence, the turtle's selective truths, and even the scarcity effect of this offer will not remain open forever, all converge into a single line of movement. He is no longer deciding whether to go. He is only resolving his last remaining anxieties one by one. There will not be danger, right? They will not look down on me, right? The turtle understands this, which is why his answers grow shorter and shorter. In this story, the fox is the only one who speaks the truth, at least from the observer's standpoint. Water is dangerous by nature. Official life is no small danger either. If you go, you will die. There is no lie in what the fox says, and yet truth fails. Earlier, the bear accurately identified the core problem in the mountain assembly, but changed nothing. Speaking correctly in public and actually moving the order of things are entirely different matters. The fox is a variation on that same theme. Truth can neither change the system nor save a friend. The fox can only say, do not go. He cannot offer an alternative. He cannot say, you can become prime minister. You can enjoy wealth and glory. There is a world where your worth will be recognized. What the fox is really saying is probably this: it is better to stay here and go on being ignored. The turtle does not even feel the need to refute him head on. He says, in effect, that fox once asked me to take him along, but I refused because his heart was rotten. He is only trying to stop you now because he wants your place for himself. To contaminate the motives of the one speaking truth. This is the most efficient way to neutralize truth without ever having to refute it. Everything the rabbit imagined about the dragon palace was made entirely of language. Wealth and glory came from the turtle's mouth alone. The rabbit had seen none of it with his own eyes. But now, for the first time, physical reality rises before him. Endless water, a scene so vast that he cannot tell where the sea ends and the sky begins. This is the first moment when he confronts sensorially what he has actually agreed to. By now, the turtle's answers are openly flimsy, and still the rabbit accepts them. He has already turned the fox into an enemy. He has already heard back from the turtle a humiliating picture of mountain life. Most of all, to abandon the narrative of, I will become a great minister in the dragon palace, would mean returning to being a nameless mountain creature once again. Then the soldier tells the rabbit the whole truth. The dragon king is ill. The rabbit's liver is needed. That is why the turtle came to capture him. And the soldier adds, what I cannot understand is you. If it was obvious you would die by coming here, why did you abandon your homeland and follow him all this way? The soldier is speaking to the rabbit, but the question is really addressed to the audience. Can we honestly be sure that we are not riding on the turtle's back ourselves? Or are we, too, in the middle of delivering our own livers, deceived by the universal premises we wanted to believe in? What the Dragon King demands of the rabbit is simple. It is a straight, direct command. Stick out your belly and receive the knife. Put differently, it means, I do not want to die, so you must die. The rabbit could say exactly the same thing. I do not want to die, so you die. Pijang pajang. In Korean, it means that both sides are in the same position. Usually, this expression is used to neutralize the other person's criticism in the sense of, what gives you the right to blame someone else? The reason the tu quoque fallacy is considered a fallacy is that, instead of addressing the content of the other person's argument, it talks about the other person's completely unrelated qualifications. But when examining the other person's content is meaningless, it may not be a fallacy. In that case, it is not a distraction from the point, but the only factual statement one can make. The Dragon King wants to kill the rabbit for the sake of his own survival, and the rabbit deceives the Dragon King for the sake of his own survival. Their motive is the same, and in the face of that motive of survival, there is no authority within this narrative that can judge which life is more valuable. The Dragon King asserts the superiority of his own life by saying, I have received the mandate of heaven. But that is a justification he grants to himself, not a standard the rabbit has ever agreed to. There is, however, something that makes that authority seem real. The many soldiers surrounding the rabbit. Because the Dragon King has power, he can state his desire in its raw form. Because the rabbit lacks power, he cannot dare say directly, I do not want to die, so you just die instead. So he is forced into an extraordinary act of cunning. The strategy the rabbit chooses is to disguise his own desire in a completely different form. The rabbit's real message is, I do not want to die, so you die instead. But if he says that directly, he dies. So he translates this message into the Dragon King's own interest. If you send me back, I will bring you the liver. He creates a structure in which the rabbit's survival becomes identical with the Dragon King's recovery. He changes the statement from spare me into, Your Majesty must spare me if Your Majesty wishes to live as well. Now killing the rabbit becomes an act that harms the Dragon King himself. When one cannot pursue one's own desire directly, one inserts that desire into the other person's system of desire. The rabbit uses a genius mirroring strategy. He returns to the turtle exactly what he himself suffered at the turtle's hands. In the previous episode 3, the turtle identified the rabbit's sensitivity to gain as the deification of his self-narrative. Sir, you are fit to become a high minister. The rabbit reacts to this immediately. He realizes that he has been driven into danger because he could not make a balanced judgment about his own lack. What the rabbit identifies in the Dragon King is a sensitivity to loss, an extreme sensitivity to any choice that might contribute even slightly to his own death. Interestingly, the turtle had a hidden and dirty premise. If it serves the goal, then deception is permitted. Even that the rabbit copies and reflects back in exactly the same way. The logic of Pijang Pajang is not operating only at the level of content, I do not want to die, so you die instead, but is being reflected equally at the level of methodology. When the turtle says, let us cut open his belly, this is essentially a warning that says, that creature may be using the same method we ourselves use. But for the Dragon King to accept this warning, he would have to acknowledge deception is a possible strategy, while at the same time saying, but when the other side uses it against me, it is unjust. That is not logically sustainable. Saying that one cannot revise the premise is an explanation at the level of logic, but what actually operates in this work is not logic but desire. The real reason the Dragon King fails to recognize the rabbit's fraud is not that he is unable to revise a contaminated premise, but that he does not want to revise it. If we look again at the core structure of the previous commentary, the reason the rabbit failed to recognize the turtle's fraud was not logical incompetence. The rabbit had a truth speaker in the form of the fox, and logically he had enough reason to suspect. But he did not suspect, because to do so would collapse the narrative of me becoming the Prime Minister of the Dragon Palace. The Dragon King is the same. He had a truth speaker right beside him in the form of the turtle. But in order to accept that truth, he would have to face the possibility that we might cut him open and find no liver. And once he faces that possibility, he arrives at the conclusion, I may die. In other words, the fundamental motor here is desire. The process by which the creatures of the underwater palace are deceived by the rabbit's sophistry is not mere stupidity. It is a catastrophe that shows how a deductive system collapses when it encounters an unfamiliar and contaminated assumption, a false premise. The Dragon King and his ministers are full of deductive confidence, the confidence that all principle is unified. They try to derive judgment from authority and order they already regard as true, and when an unfamiliar proposition enters, they do not verify it through open observation, but instead patch it into their existing authority. The rabbit injects into the underwater palace's deductive engine the completely new but plausible false premise of the detachability of the liver, borrowing the logic of the moon and the tides. This is an entirely new proposition about an entirely new species, one the creatures of the Dragon Palace have never encountered before. They have never seen a rabbit as a species, nor have they ever verified the physiology of land animals. The only verification they perform is to order that the rabbit's 3 rear holes be inspected, but that is not really open observation. It is going to confirm a conclusion that has already been decided. Deduction, by its very structure, pairs well with authority. Deduction asks about validity. Deductive reasoning is, at its core, a true or false mode of thought. True or false, right or wrong. If a ruler were to say that something is correct with an 80% probability, his authority would not stand very well, because when it actually happened, when probability collapsed into reality, there would still have been a chance that he was wrong. But it is also difficult for a ruler to display every possible case and show everyone experimental results, proving that something happened 8 times out of 10. A ruler only needs to say, this is correct, and the reasons why it is correct can always be brought in later, from anywhere. What decides that is a kind of power. What the rabbit does after gaining power is rather cute and insolent. He begins trying to decide with his own mouth what accords with principle. He looks at the ridge beam inscription in the genealogy and says, the expression "the dragon's bones" is not appropriate, so it would be better to replace the character for dragon with the character for whale. A prisoner who, only a moment ago, had to stick out his belly and receive the knife, is now evaluating the appropriateness of the words hanging in the Dragon King's palace. The authority to determine which words are correct and which are incorrect is precisely the act of relocating the source of principle to oneself. And the Dragon King simply nods and says, indeed, your words are right, because it is the word of the benefactor who will bring him the liver. When power moves, principle moves with it. This structure is actually repeated once more at the end of the work, in the scene where the rabbit wraps up his droppings and sends them to the turtle as medicine. After surviving the Dragon King's deceptive logic, the rabbit uses that exact same deceptive logic on the turtle. My droppings are a miraculous medicine that reduces fever. Structurally, this is identical to the Dragon King saying, your death is an honor. It is the force that wields power. It is rhetoric that packages something worthless as something valuable. What is amusing is that the Dragon King actually eats it and recovers. If the Dragon King had not recovered, then the story would end neatly with a lie is a lie. But he does recover. A false prescription that begins from a false premise actually works. What does not accord with principle ends up functioning in reality. This ending touches the greatest intellectual tension of the late Joseon period. Neo-Confucianism begins from principle. The promise of that system is that if one investigates the principles of all things, one will arrive at correct action and correct results. But what this work shows is a world in which principle was correct, yet the result was wrong. The Dragon Palace's deductive system could not filter out the rabbit's false premise, and a world in which principle was wrong, yet the result was right. The rabbit's droppings actually become medicine. At the end, the narrator states directly, if one who bears the name of human is not even equal to a rabbit or a turtle, how could that not be shameful? Let all remember this. What exactly is this narrator telling us to remember?